Welcome to another episode of Progress, Potential, and Possibilities, discussions with fascinating people designing a better tomorrow for all of us. I'm your host, Ira Pastor.
Welcome, everybody, again to another episode of our show. Today, bringing you another really fascinating guest involved in creating a better tomorrow through technology, through innovation. We have the honor today of being joined by Sanford Browne, who is President of Research and Innovation at L'Oreal North America Zone, where he also serves as member of L'Oreal's United States Management Committee, as well as a member of their Global Research and Innovation Management Committee. Previous to this role, Sanford served as Senior Vice President of Research and Innovation for L'Oreal's Asia Pacific Zone, where he helped build the complete research and innovation infrastructure across the division in the zone, including research hubs in China, Japan, along with Seoul, Bangalore, and Singapore. In addition to research innovation, he has also been, along the way, a great advocate for cultural diversity, making strong contributions to developing local researchers throughout the L'Oreal Asia Pacific Zone. He joined L'Oreal in 2013 as Vice President of R&D, of Research and Innovation in China, where he was the major architect there of the research and strategic partnerships that drove the innovation needed to meet specific consumer expectations of that market, growing business all across the division. And prior to joining L'Oreal, he served in various research and leadership roles at Unilever, at Procter & Gamble, and joined the personal care industry right out of University of Waterloo, where he was studying biochemistry and microbiology. A lot of interesting themes to get into today. We're honored to have him with us today. Sanford Browne, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today.
Thanks a lot, Ira. Great to be here with you today.
It's great having you. I would love to start off by sort of handing things over to you for a little bit to sort of talk about the beginning of this journey. If you could sort of take us a little into your background, a little bit about your interest in microbiology and biochemistry, and you got started fast and furious into the sort of the consumer health area, consumer packaged goods. What got you interested in that space right out of university?
No, good question. To be fair, when I went into university, I wasn't quite sure where I wanted to go. I had a number of different interests from science, from environmental, for oncology. And so I wasn't quite certain. I had selected University of Waterloo to go to because they had the largest co-op program in North America. And it was also a way, quite transparently, to help me pay my way through university. And through that, the fantastic thing that it did is it opened my eyes to different career opportunities that I hadn't really thought about before. I had no idea that there was so much science and technology that actually went behind products. So I had a chance to work for a consumer goods product as part of that co-op. I also did very advanced research as part of that. And that really taught me that there's something quite magical when you really can decode a consumer, when you can really understand that you can make some real differences in the type of products that they're using. And it's a small difference, but when you impact that every day in their lives and they see actually the difference of technically something that you provide, it makes a small difference in their life, and that small difference adds up over time. And so that's what really opened my eyes to this area, to this industry. And from that, I've had the good fortune to work in many different places around the world and with a lot of great people.
Excellent. And I'm here on the United States East Coast in Philadelphia, and a couple careers ago, I had the opportunity to visit one of L'Oreal's research centers in northern New Jersey. And coming out of the pharmaceutical industry, it was a bit of a shock. I was not aware of sort of the scope of the research enterprise there, and now sort of looking at some of the information on the website, you have over $1 billion of R&D every year, thousands of people working at seven R&D centers around the world. Talk a little bit about the structure today, because it is quite pharma scale, let's put it that way. But again, I wasn't experienced what I was going to see when I witnessed it 20 years ago, but it's gotten even significantly larger than that. Talk a little bit about the structure and a little bit of sort of the research and innovation priorities for an organization like L'Oreal in 2023.
Yeah, well, first, it really begins with our history as a company. We're
Sure.
founded over 110 years ago, and we were founded by a chemist. And he created some products, including the first really safe hair color.
Yeah.
And since then, that aspect about innovation, about entrepreneurship, about science, about safety has really been at the core of ourselves as a company. And so that permeates everything that we do. We invest more in terms of research and innovation than any other beauty company around the world. We're the largest beauty company in the world. And we believe that to really invest in that science makes a difference, because you can promise many things in the area of cosmetics, but consumers are very smart,
Yeah.
and they see where there really is a difference. And that difference and that longevity over time is because you can really create a performance. And it's also important that we're always looking at new areas to be inspired, new areas where we can really deliver a difference, because beauty is also an aspiration. It's something that's constantly evolving. So you need to always be pushing the boundaries and staying ahead of that. And this is what we try to do to really make sure that we're advancing on that. You talked about here in North America, we've been here over 60 years. We're investing in a new state-of-the-art facility here in New Jersey. We'll have home to almost 600 scientists and experts, and we want to make sure they have the absolute best in terms of facilities for us to create the innovations of tomorrow, to collaborate with all the fantastic innovation ecosystem here. And we work very much on what we call a multipolar organization. This allows us to leverage our scale while at the same time staying very close to our local consumers and also our local innovation ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. What, when it comes to innovation in beauty, in cosmetics, there's obviously there's a lot of things that are similar to, say, the pharmaceutical industry, but then a lot of really unique areas that you can get involved in. One of the things that was very interesting to me, and when I said this connects to sort of your background and in working in Asia, but the fact that there's different interests in beauty in different areas of the world, and what goes in China and Asia Pacific might not be what a consumer wants here. And so you've got to obviously modulate your research and innovation towards those different needs. You also have the ability not just to obviously move faster than, say, a pharmaceutical product, which may take me 20 years to get to market, but you also have the opportunity to do unique things like, bring together mixtures of substances that may have interesting combination effects. Talk about a little of sort of the unique nature of innovation when it comes to creating novel products in this space.
Well, yeah. So for us, there's probably two elements that we always look for. One is, where's the consumer? Where does the consumer have attention or an opportunity where they are saying, like, I'd really like to be able to get this next level of performance, or hey, my products are not satisfying me in the same manner. And so here it's really, we spend a lot of time really understanding the consumer. What are their habits? Doing ethnographic research. We have the ability to bring in hundreds of consumers a day where we co-create our prototypes with them. And at the same time, we also have to be pushing the edge in terms of science.
Mm-hmm.
What is actually possible that we can create new solutions for. And we leverage all areas for that, because we also want to innovate in new areas like sustainability and green science and our commitments there. We want to ensure always the safety of our products. So we leverage both of these elements to really pull that together to really create something that's new and different for the consumer. And we see that it's always evolving. It really struck me, coming back here in North America after 16 plus years abroad, just how the marketplace and the consumer has evolved and is actually quickly, even more so quickly evolving today in the beauty space. And so that means that you always need to be staying on top of what's happening and pushing the boundaries. Like, for example, the US is becoming a majority minority nation. So for that, it always was big, it was always complex, but now you have a different size of scale. So for us, for example, if you're talking hair care or hair color, you need to understand a lot more about curly hair.
Sure.
Half of Gen Z are curly hair, identify themselves as curly hair. So you need to really understand what's technically different about that, how the attaches at the follicle, what does that mean in terms of bleaching, what does it mean in terms of care. And actually, we're a microcosm for what's happening around the world, because by 2030, you'll have around 40% of the global population that will have curly hair. So it also allows us as a company to say, wait a sec, what can we learn here in North America that can also help us when we look to the future globally? Same thing happening in terms of skin tones as well. So these are areas where we're always trying to pioneer the science, at the same time understanding where the consumer is going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about some of the science, because your portfolio is quite broad. I think a really interesting place to start off would be with your novel three-dimensional Episkin model. And I think, this is quite interesting from a variety of angles. One, in the sense that it's just bioprinting in three dimensions and understanding, this stuff is a very complex organ. It's got a lot more than just, that top layer of epidermal cells. One, you have this amazing ability to understand skin via this model. Two, in this transition that we've been seeing across the globe in terms of moving away from animal testing, it obviously is an amazing solution. And then third, if you could talk a little bit about the recent relationship with the University of California's incubator, where you have basically licensed this technology for startup innovators to work with. I think this is a really interesting piece of the portfolio. I'd love for you to talk a little about.
Yeah. So it really begins with this commitment that we have on safety to ensure that all of our materials are safe. And I said that's really part of our DNA since inception. And with this aspect, what we're looking for is, all right, so are there ways that we can move away from animal testing? Actually, since 1989, we've stopped animal testing. We did that well before any regulations have happened anywhere around the world, because we believe that's also part, if you want to be a leader, you also have to take some responsibility of where the future is going to lie. And so this is where we invested a lot in that. Besides safety, we also use these models and different types of models to look at efficacy, because we want to make sure that our raw materials and our products are really going to be efficacious. So we can study different types of pigmented skin. We use different sources of artificial skin to understand where we can get the performance of our materials. And so this is what we use to confirm the safety, to look at the efficacy. And then at the same time, we want to make sure that we can share this with others. So, when I was in China, we spent a lot of time working with the regulators, working with key opinion leaders, sharing our models of three-dimensional skin with them, our test methodologies, validating with them to give them confidence to move away from animal testing that they did. And at the same time, as you said, so more recently, we're looking at how we can help biotech, which we believe is a really exciting field that allows us to be really inspired by nature and can create whole new molecules. How can we help and invest for other companies that are maybe starting up that don't have the research capability so they can have access to do this type of screening in a very safe and efficacious way. And the most recent one is the Bakar Institute, where we've here formed a donation where they can have access to the same models that we use to be able to confirm the safety. And this is part of where we believe it's our responsibility as a leader to really invest in this area, to share our learnings with key opinion leaders, with startups, with regulators, so that we can all move to a more safe way of evaluating, a more conscientious way. And then also on our side, we also use it a lot, as I said, for efficacy, because the other element is you want to ensure that our products are really working, that technology is providing a meaningful and perceivable difference.
And moving from the sort of the testing technologies to the bioactives and sort of the green approach, and obviously this is something that natural products has been, you know, sort of the basis for a lot of our industries the last century or so. But you've really taken an interesting position here, not just in looking at obviously the plant kingdom provides us very interesting novel bioactives, but you've gone a few steps beyond in looking at obviously all the supporting materials, saying, look, if there's something here that's made from petroleum and we can source it through a plant system instead, we'll go that direction. And the third part of that is obviously some of the technologies that, hey, if we don't have to grow 100 acres of X, but we can look at cell culture or whatever and save that water and save that part of the environment. There's a very neat sustainability angle here as well. I'd love for you to talk about green sciences at L'Oreal in 2023.
Yeah, so this is an area where we've really made sort of a strategic commitment going forward, where green science, what we talk about is really being inspired or powered by nature. Yeah. And here we've set out as a company some goals for us to achieve. We've shared those publicly, what we call our L'Oreal for the Future 2030 goals. And this is really at the heart of our research activities that are happening right now. So, and we've already made significant progress in this. For example, on our raw material side, 61% of our raw materials today are either plant-based, from renewable plant-based sources, or abundant minerals. We have 82% of our materials are also biodegradable. But that's good. It's good progress. We're investing a lot, but we want to go a lot further. So this is, as I said, for our 2030, we want to get to a point where 100% of our formulas will be eco-design, 100% will respect aquatic diversity, and that 95% of the ingredients from the 61% that we are now will be coming from abundant minerals or really renewable sourced materials. And so that's a big challenge for us to do, especially when you think about at the same time that we want to obviously grow our business, that there's more and more diverse needs for consumers. And so this is where we're investing a lot in terms of science. We're looking for partnerships in that area with our current partners, but also new partners, so that we can really co-create this future together. And I think, to me, it's also a very exciting time, because you combine some of these areas in terms of green science that we're doing with the new age of tech. Yep. And with the consumers becoming more and more sophisticated here in the US and around the world. I think the combination of all of those really creates a spark for creativity and for innovation and for new solutions.
As you're saying, in terms of tech, you know, you're not just involved in the life sciences and in your innovation program. You recently announced this large digital beauty, digital health initiative with Verily, which is part of the Alphabet organization, focused on hair and skin aging. Can you say a little bit about that, and just sort of a little bit of your vision in terms of some of these digital tools? Obviously, digital health in general has been growing quite a bit, but sort of the important role that this plays in sort of the ecosystem of these beauty products and services.
Yeah, so we see a lot of connection here. Much like we can see that green science is how we can be inspired and powered by nature, we also see a similar analogy of being inspired and powered by tech. And we look at that in terms of what we can do in terms of researchers and how we can actually use this type of tech to help us do research in a better way, in a more efficient way, in a more sort of inclusive way, and then how we can also use it to help create better solutions for consumers. So one example was the one you just mentioned. We're partnering with Verily. They have expertise, obviously, in search and precision beauty, and we have expertise in terms of skin and hair health. And we're going to run the largest ever study, over 10,000 people, where we'll be able to understand and track in this cohort their daily lives. So we understand all the factors that will come into play with skin health, with scalp health, with hair, and to be able to do that in a totally way that we haven't been able to do anywhere before. So that allows us to really pioneer and to use tech in a new way to create new insights and really power our scientists and experts to create new solutions. We also use it today, for example, in looking at new technologies. So I was at the Consumer Electronic Show in January. We got 6 awards there. There were 2 products in particular that we showcased there that we will be launching in the near future. One of them, where we use tech, was there's about 50 million people globally who have motor disabilities. This makes it more difficult for them to be able to apply beauty products. They still have a desire for beauty products, but it makes the application much more difficult. Mm-hmm. So we also partnered in this case to create a device that we call Hapta that'll be launched first under our Lancome brand. And here it allows people to pick up a lipstick. It compensates for any tremors or motions that they disabilities that they have, and apply that in a very precise way to get the beauty that they desire. We also use tech. Another one that we announced was eyebrows. So magic brow. Mm-hmm. So many women and some men are not satisfied with the eyebrows that they have. They want them to be fuller or look different or be different color. And we see this as one of the fastest growing categories actually around the world in terms of makeup beauty. And a lot of people doing also professional solutions for that. Here, you can take a scan of your face. Mm-hmm. We have algorithm that then looks at that. You can then say, wait a sec, based on your actual 3D contours of your face, what type of eyebrows would you like? What type of shape? What type of color? Put that into a machine, a simple machine. In a matter of seconds, it prints a temporary tattoo. You just scan it over your eyebrows, done, and off you go. And so it's a new way of creating beauty solutions. And so this is part of where we want to continuously be inspired, and it opens up new ways to create solutions. Of course, what's really critical is they really are added value, that they're really adding something on top. This is why part of the reason we call it augmented beauty, that we can go further in terms of this space. And it's quite exciting. We see a lot more potential and opportunities of that in the future. And we see that there's a combination of what we can be powered by in terms of digital and that space and tech, and also in green science.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what can you say about, well, there's actually 2 really interesting partnerships here, and they both, I mean, I'll look at it as sort of this microenvironment around the skin itself. One of these has to do with a term that's kind of hot in sort of the oncology field, this concept of an exposome, that there's a lot of bad stuff in the environment that not just affects the skin, but the deeper biology and so forth, which you're partnering, I think, an Israeli company to study sort of the exposome interaction with the skin. And then you have this really fascinating deal you recently did on looking at menstrual cycles. And again, this goes back to sort of the beauty from within concept about, yeah, there's a lot of hormones and bioproducts and everything just naturally floating around our systems that affect how we look. Can you say a few words about both of these? Because I think they really complete the overall story on how you look at this field.
Yeah. So it's we've actually been pioneering studies for over a decade, looking at exposome, running large clinical studies in various parts of the world, including when I was in China with L'Oreal, to really understand what's the effect of different factors. So already, 80% of aging signs, for example, are coming from photo damage. And that UV is not just when you're at the beach, but actually the longer wavelengths of UV, UVA, visible light can have an impact on your skin, even people with darker skin tones when you get into more visible light. And then we've also found from that actually when you combine that with pollution, you get a negative synergistic effect. And as people around the world, not just in the US, have moved to more urban centers, you have more air pollution, unfortunately, that creates a really negative synergistic effect that can really accelerate aging in there. So these are part of the studies that we've done in trying to track that. We're continuing to study this field. So this is an area that, it's important for us to understand what are the factors, what's happening as consumers move to more urban centers, what are the elements that affect that, and then how can we sort of compensate or intercept that to help prevent that form of aging or help get more into maintaining that healthy look that people are looking for. So this is an area that we've spent quite a bit on really pioneering on this field, understanding it very fundamentally. And then, as you said, we're also then looking at other companies that we can leverage for this. So we don't have to solve everything ourselves. We look at what are the different aspects that we can go and study. So there's an Israeli startup, Brisometer, that we've been working with for a number of years to really, which has the ability to pinpoint accuracy to understand what are the different elements that are happening right there. So you can, when you're doing a research study, you could then understand actually where the consumer is, what actually is the air quality index at that point, what's UV, what's the pollen count, so different factors like this that we can understand. So this allows us to do types of research where we can get a much better understanding of all the different factors that come in and affect beauty, and then what we can do to create better beauty solutions to help with that. And as you said, the other study we did with Clue was with our hormonal cycle. So really to understand, and we share that knowledge broadly because it's important, is how that affects things like acne, oil at different parts in the menstrual cycle, menopause as being different. So really understanding what that is and track that for the first time. So we're always looking for what are other companies that we can partner with to be able to expand our knowledge base, to be able to create better beauty solutions for consumers.
Excellent. Sanford, you earlier mentioned the amazing sort of research infrastructure that you have across these multiple centers, the new building that you're setting up. When I showed up, 20 years ago, I was there as a startup innovator looking to partner with L'Oreal at the time. Since then, it seems that you have all sorts of really interesting infrastructure for the open innovation process in terms of various incubators and accelerators. I think you're involved in some different venture funds now focused on beauty and consumer products. Could you talk a little bit about sort of that side of the open innovation process as things are in 2023, and a little bit of what you want to see from startup innovators nowadays that come knocking on, well, maybe they don't knock on your door, but knock on someone's door in business development or whatever with with a new potential asset, what do you like to see? What don't you like to see? What gets someone thrown out of the office? Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
So, first, as I said, we're entrepreneurial based company.
Yeah.
So in this aspect, we're always looking for what are great ideas, because great ideas can come from anywhere, and how we can build that up.
Yeah.
So we do that internally. For example, we help sponsor, we help find ways to do that. We have awards that we give out every year, for example, here in the US, of what are the best ideas, and many of those can translate into products that we then launch in the future. So this is a way that we also create this internally, and we're always looking, and we encourage people, to have their passion and to be able to express ideas. On the external side, and I'll give an example of one that was, I think, born originally from what we call this Beauty Shaker Award. Was a product that we're going to launch next year. We announced it previous year's Consumer Electronics Show, which is hair coloring. So during COVID, a lot of people couldn't go to the salon. They tried to color their hair at home. And we saw some opportunities to improve this. This is the same as using a hairbrush, but you have in traditional at-home coloring, you're mixing the colors, the oxidative color right there in a bowl. Rather than to do this, you have a cartridge, you have over 40 shades, all ammonia free, and they mix instantaneously, and you just comb through your hair. It works on all different hair types. So there's an idea that was born with a team coming together, proposed this as an idea. We said, that's great. We dedicated resources to do this. We then found the right external partners to help us create this type of product and then move forward. Then when we look about the external innovation ecosystem, so I've had the good fortune to either live or work in many different places around the world. And, North America is very unique. Here, there's nowhere else that I've seen sort of all four of these aspects play at this scale. Some countries have one or two of these, but not all four, where you have top universities, you have the best academic institutes, you have a really rich and vibrant startup ecosystem, and you have big companies investing millions of dollars in R&D. We have all four of those, and we want to leverage all four of those different aspects much more, not just for our business here in North America, but for the group globally. So we're always looking for different types of startups, where we can do. And so this is an area where we've put a particular focus over, call it, the past year and a half. We've been really leveraging. We have a team, for example, on the West Coast, in San Francisco and in LA, to help us really connect to that innovation ecosystem there. We've identified companies like Debut that we've announced our investment in them. We work with Stanford Research Institute and Stanford University to partner. We just announced with Bakar. So we're looking out for them. Sometimes they come to us. We want to really connect more. We want people to know that our door is open and we're looking for opportunities. We just recently did a similar approach at MIT a few months ago. Yep. And so this is where we want to build more of this to really leverage. And so in this case, we're open to all different types of ideas. What technologies could be open. Sometimes companies are looking for more of an investment to help them in. Sometimes it's more of a commercial partnership. So we have really a very wide range. And we have, I'm very fortunate that I have a fantastic, what we call open innovation team that includes fantastic, some of the best I've ever met in terms of business development. And so they really work at creating a win-win aspect. So what's going to be a win for our partner? What's going to be a win for us? And find that middle ground where it's going to work for both, because I'm a believer that you need to have it work both ways otherwise you won't be able to define success. And then also to be a little bit humble in this approach, because we also have to learn by doing, right? Sure. So part of it is that we're doing this in a way so that we're continuously learning how we can improve, how we can be better partners, how we can be more responsive, how we can create better solutions. And we also are doing things like almost what we call extended lab with people, where we're opening up much more of our labs of how we work to be able to do that in a much more effective manner.
Mm-hmm. Say a couple words about that while we have you on. You mentioned the new laboratory and a major investment. And part of this is you've talked in some of the press about the flex model, about trying to avoid this sort of silo stuff that happens unfortunately across a lot of research enterprises. Say a few words about the flex or the modular concept and how that's going to open up a lot of this like sort of fluidity throughout the research process.
Yeah, so I'll talk about it here in North America. It's similar globally, but so in North America, I'm sitting here. I'm in Clark, New Jersey right now. We've been here over 60 years. We have a good presence, but how we grew up, we're currently spread across 5 different buildings here. We're investing over $140 million for a state-of-the-art facility. It'll be built in 2 phases, and when it's complete, a little over a year from now, in the 2 phases, we'll have everyone together, all in one roof. And that obviously, creates a lot of opportunities for connections, which will be much easier than they are today. We'll actually have all of the people in one large lab all together, really to create, because sometimes those non-obvious connections is where you can spur innovation and creativity. It also allows easier for people if they want to move their career and develop in a different area, they can. Also, to have access to the experts in a given area, they're going to be right there. So this is an aspect that we've consciously designed the space not only to make it the best for our people, the best in terms of the equipment that they can get and have access to, but also purposely designed so that we have as many connections that people can have to really encourage them to build off of each other's ideas, to look for, maybe if I'm working on a hair color, how can I be inspired by someone working on makeup? When I'm working on a conditioner, how could that help me on a skin cream? So how we can transfer some of those technologies and some of the things that maybe not be as obvious, to try to accelerate. And also keeping in mind that, it's always evolving what we need, right? And so how we can, as opposed to today, it's quite complicated to try to move equipment or install something new or try a new approach. Here we want to build that flexibility in so that people are always learning. I'm a big proponent that, if you want to, on a sustained basis, create the next generation of innovations, you also have to invest in innovating how you work. And by innovating how we work, by being, this is why we also are looking a lot, as I mentioned, on the sort of what we call augmented research, or using digital to really find new ways and algorithms to help, not to replace, but to help, and robotics and high throughput to help the researcher to do a better job than what they are today, to screen more materials, to think more outside the box, to look at different aspects. This is what we really want to power, and invest in the people and help upskill them so they can do that aspect. This is where we see a lot of opportunity in the future.
Excellent. Sanford, I mentioned, again in your bio that obviously cultural diversity extremely important to you. You made a really important contribution when you were in the Asia Pacific zone, in terms of developing that part of the research infrastructure. Recently, it was announced that L'Oreal made this big research grant to the Skin of Color Society here in the USA. Just say a few more words, if you would, about sort of your vision, your mission, specifically on advancing so-called inclusive dermatology research in the United States.
Okay. Yeah, so it probably stems a little bit, growing up in Toronto, where I'm from, which I don't know if it still is, but at that point was the most, one of its aspects was the most diverse city in the world. And I think part of that and growing up in that environment made me really both appreciate and be curious about different cultures, about different ways that people think, different ways that they have as background of what they understand, and then combined with a passion to travel and be in different places. And I've had a chance to live across Asia, across Europe, and work in many different cultures. It's always interesting to learn about different approaches, and there's many different ways that you can go about solving a given challenge. And I think this is really inspiring for myself personally. Then at the same time, we look at where the opportunity lies. And I was touching base with that earlier as we shift to really, probably the next census will become a majority minority nation. Already the fastest growing group of Gen Z are the ones who identify themselves as two or more races. So that's happening today here in the US. So therefore, it's really important that we understand that. We understand it both from a consumer aspirations, what are they looking for in terms of beauty, but also technically what's different. And what we found in both, say, call it hair and in skin, is that the scales, for example, that are used, the way that we evaluate is a little bit antiquated. A lot of that was developed years ago and doesn't really reflect the richness that exists today. So we spent a lot of time really investing in understanding what's different as we get into more curly and coily hair, what's really different about that structure, what's really different of how it anchors to the scalp. What does that mean in terms of different products and the technologies and how they work? What does that mean in terms of different looks that people have, the different types of products, that the routines are much different. They change their hairstyles much more often. So it's important to understand that. Similarly, in terms of skin of color, you see that already dermatologists are difficult to get an appointment with. But then when you think about people of color, they're very much underrepresented. So this is why we've created this scholarship in partnership with the Society of Color, which is a group of dermatologists focused on people of color, to see how we can support more research in this area to understand. We did a study where we showed that when we think about hyperpigmentation or exposure where people have acne or acne marks, that they can be more susceptible to damage. We want to understand what are the elements, and this is where we saw the element of visible light has a greater effect in terms of those skin tones. So these are areas where we are always investing to understand more. And it's also where it also creates spaces for us to innovate. So we created, by better understanding curls, we can create, for example, under our Matrix brand, Curl Can Dream, a whole lineup of products specifically designed so that people can embrace their curly hair and to get the best for it in a way that really creates performance. That we're working. We just announced a launch of a new molecule at the Worldwide Dermatology Congress about a way that allows, stops overproduction of melanin, so you can get your natural skin tone can come through and be able to embrace that. And so these are areas where we're really investing a lot, because it's where if we understand more, we can actually help create better solutions. And it's also representative of what's existing today in terms of the workplace. So my personal ambition here is for us in North America to create a center of excellence on inclusivity, where we're doing that for our employees at work, and also about the way that we work, the way we evaluate our products, and ultimately to have better solutions, and to do that for the group, right? So because if we can do that here, we can make that successful here in the US, it's a template for what the L'Oreal company would look like when you think about 2040 or 2050 and our global footprint.
Sarah, while we have you, anything else in terms of conferences, meetings? I know the American Academy of Dermatology meeting was in March, their annual meeting. Anything else coming up that we should be aware of in terms of places you're going to be talking, presenting, places where we can run into you at some point and meet you? Anything else on the schedule for 2023 that you want to mention, please take the floor.
Well, we have 600 scientists. We're always in different places. We have 4,000 scientists around the world. So we're in different congresses. We're publishing papers all the time that you'll be able to connect with us. We're there in terms of LinkedIn and trying to share more, because in the past maybe we weren't always sharing as much, and we want to be a lot more open of what we're doing, so to create those better connections with people. We're looking in new areas in terms of cognitive science, for example. So we want to understand that more and more. here in the US and around the world. We have within our team areas in terms of fragrance and sensory that we want to do, and we're investing more in this space because that's really important when you think very holistically of how consumers
Sure.
experience products and really the type of beauty benefit they want. Also, when you get into the level of personalization, because it's much more, we'll create the beauty for all by creating the beauty for each. And so the more we understand that, the better. But there are definitely these areas that we're focused on for the future, and there, like I said, there's many different connection points. So if you don't see us at one of those events, then please look for us elsewhere. And if you're interested in terms of partnering with L'Oreal, feel free to contact us at any time because, like I said, we want to be more open to that. We see, I think, to me, having been in this consumer space for my entire career, I think right now is a particularly exciting time because you have that combination of a consumer who's really evolving, fast evolving in their needs, in technically what's different in terms of explain skin tone, skin colors, with an intersection of what's happening in the field of green science and the intersection of tech. And all of those, when you have those intersections and that growth and that desire for beauty, because it didn't slow down. People had some question if that would slow down during COVID. Didn't. In fact, it's growing. It's continuing to grow. And so when you have those intersections, I think it's really an exciting time to be able to take that to the next level.
Absolutely. And it's going to be fun to continue to watch you as you evolve this component of L'Oreal's business and take leadership of research and innovation for the organization here in North America. But it's very exciting. It's such a diverse set of technologies and tools and initiatives, and really rooting you on with all of it. For everybody that is going to be listening to this particular episode of our show across the podcast networks or watching on the YouTube channel, again, you've been spending time with Sanford Browne, President, Research and Innovation at L'Oreal's North American Zone. Sanford, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come talk to us, come educate us on these topics for a little while. Obviously, thank you for what you're doing there on all these fronts. And as we like to say on our show, thanks for helping to create a better tomorrow for so many people via the type of things you do. Really great set of initiatives, and wishing you the best with all of it.
Thank you very much, Ira. Pleasure.